Hey guys, Jeff Francoeur here. Thanks for listening to our content, and please like and subscribe. Jeff Francoeur here with Pure Athlete. Before we get to today's guest, I want to share with everyone that we have our first partnership with Booster. Now, Booster is the high school sports #1 athletic fundraising for teams and groups. And their owner and CEO is a good buddy of mine. Go to church with him and a great guy. And instead of me telling you what it is, I'm going to bring him on. So Chris Carneal, thanks for joining us.
Jeff, thanks so much. So excited to sponsor Pure Athlete. Love your message, love your vision, love the heart and the values behind it. I'm a former college athlete. I'm a coach of my boys and my daughters as well, basketball and baseball. And our company I started 20 years ago, we work with schools, K through 12, and we serve them by raising funds. The past 20 years, we've raised schools, teams, and groups over $600 million, and we want to continue to serve more schools. So if you're interested in hearing how we can come to your sports team, your school, or your group, choosebooster.com.
Again, go to choosebooster.com. Chris, thanks for being a part of this. A big supporter of youth athletics, high school athletics, and we're looking forward to a good partnership with you, man.
Absolutely. Love what you guys are doing. Look forward to serving and helping schools raise funds.
Welcome back to Pure Athlete. I'm Jeff Francoeur, along with Britt Lee and Brad Williams, and I'm excited about today's guest, guys. He is a Georgia boy, born and raised. He's a University of Georgia golfer. Won the Open Championship over on foreign soil this year. Had a dominant performance, of course, on the Ryder Cup with the USA team this year. Brian Harmon, thanks for joining us, my man.
No, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, I got to ask you glad to have you on here. I know the Ryder Cup's over, so with that look, let everybody kind of know what you're up to these days right now after golf season.
This is my favorite time of year. It's finally cooling down a little bit. Got done. We planted all our food plots last week, and I'm down here checking on them. And I hate to say, I think we've had some failure. We had a big rain, and we're trying to figure out what to do now. So just trying to take care of our animals, but we're probably gonna have to come back and redo them. But this is kind of how I spend my off season. I like being in the woods. I like being on the farm, and I know I caught a lot of flack over across the pond for, I guess, farming and hunting and doing that kind of stuff, but it's what I do, man.
You know what? We're going to get into some youth sports in a minute, but I got to ask you two things. First of all, what it was like to win the Open Championship over there for you, and second of all, obviously, just the experience. I know the Ryder Cup didn't go the way that we all wanted to go over here, but the experience to play over there and to wear USA across your chest.
It was, one of the coolest experiences of my life. I would have never gotten to know some of those guys on the level that I got to know them, and for me, that was my favorite part. Max Homa and I had just one of the most incredible days that I've ever had Saturday at the Ryder Cup, and it's just something that him and I will share, and we'll talk about that forever. It was a really cool day, and like I said, you don't get to see talented people in your own field, especially in golf, up close in their element, doing their thing, and the way that the guys go about getting themselves ready to compete. It was just it was a real study in like golf psychology for me, which I thought was really, really cool.
And then to talk about it too, though, the Open Championship, man. I mean, I can say it. I know you won't say it, but you dominated that thing from
for sure.
Open from Thursday to Sunday. How was that?
Just one of those weeks where everything was abundantly clear. Everything felt really good. I'd have been playing some really good golf and just had a really, really solid mindset all week, and just kind of refused to let things bother me. I've never been very good at letting stuff roll off my shoulders. I get run a little too hot and cold at times. But for whatever reason that week, something felt a little different. My prep was really good. And, normally like a rainy day would have really bothered me, but just didn't.
Well, it was perfect, man. But so I know golf's your big thing, but I know you're a big sports guy too. So, fill our fans in and our listeners a little bit. What your youth sports experience was like growing up? What sports did you play? What was your favorite?
Yeah, I kind of dabbled in everything. The only trophy that I actively show in my barn at my house is my most valuable defensive player for my middle school football team. So,
Yes.
yeah, I think it's super important. I was a big baseball player. Loved baseball. I pitched, played shortstop. Probably leadoff hitter for about every team I ever played for. Warning track power at best, and I think it's important to, I feel like a lot of the grit and a lot of the determination that carried over to golf came from football and baseball, and then having to deal with losing. I was on some bad football teams and some bad baseball teams, and trying to play basketball against guys that are a lot bigger than me, having to kind of outsmart them and pick my shots and stuff like that, and having the tenacity, like, well, if I can't shoot it, I better play good defense. Like stuff like that. Just figuring out where you fit in, where you can find a crease and be successful. I think it's important. I'm glad that I didn't start specializing super early. I kind of gave it all up when I was probably 15, 16 years old. It's kind of when I quit everything else and focused on golf. And that was just because I loved golf more than the other sports. But I missed, especially baseball. I missed playing with those guys after I got done with it.
Brian, I'm curious. There are a lot of individual sport guys, whether it be golf or tennis, who also play team sports and end up liking the fact that in the individual sport, it's all about them. If they win or lose, it's all about them. Talk to me about the dynamics of playing team versus playing individual from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly checks off the old ego. I mean, when you win, you win. But for me, golf, I enjoy the vulnerable nature that golf puts you in. Like when I played baseball, like I wanted to be the guy pitching. I wanted to be the guy that came up, when something was important. And so, like, I don't mind that burden. And it's one of those things where in golf, you look foolish 99% of the time. I mean, we don't win a lot, but when it all pays off, it certainly, I don't want to say that you get to take all the credit, because I don't think that's the most important part. It's like a solo mission. It's not solo. I mean, I got tons of people that have helped me out immensely along the way, but there's something about that vulnerability and like just knowing that, with golf, I've always got the ball. Like it's always, and like I'm okay failing at golf. Like it's, and when I played on teams, it's almost like I took failing harder when I didn't perform, because I felt like I was letting other guys down.
Yeah.
Brian, at what age did you talked about you kind of really focused on golf, but what age really did you say, I may be able to play in college? Like, and did you get pressure at that point to focus on golf? I mean, and not be a team, on a team sport, but what age did you realize that, hey, I maybe could not only make a living at this, but actually get my college paid for?
Well, I think I was blessed with conviction pretty early on. I knew early on that it was all that I wanted to do. But as an 11, 12, 13, 14-year-old, I didn't think about where it would take me. I just knew that golf is what I enjoyed to do. And I didn't have anyone pressure me to make that. I made that decision myself. And so I feel really lucky that I was able to find something like that. And I don't know if that's a unique situation where you just, like, I knew right away it was all I wanted to do. And I didn't really care where it led me. I just knew that I was going to take it as far as it would take me, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Now, were you discouraged about being a left-handed golfer, though? Being a lefty, was that something that did they try to turn you around, or did they see you were good right off the start as a lefty?
No, I batted lefty. I was a throw righty and a batted lefty in baseball, so it was a pretty easy transition. I was just, if I'm hitting something, I'm hitting it left-handed.
So Brian, I read where your parents, I mean, you don't have the story where your dad was a huge golfer and you were, running to the links with him. Tell us about that dynamic, because they didn't push you into golf at all, right?
No, I had to beg my dad to go to the Ryder Cup. I mean, they're not. Yeah, he's back here behind me somewhere on a Jeep tearing something up, I'm sure. No, we didn't. My parents are both very athletic people. They just weren't big sports people. Um, and so, and that's why I think it was kind of a unique situation where like I rode my bike up to the golf course to like go hit balls. It wasn't like I went out there with dad because he didn't play golf. My parents didn't play golf. Um, but my mom, bless her heart, she took me to every tournament I ever wanted to go to. So, without her, willing to make that sacrifice, I'm certainly, certain I'd have to get really creative to find a way to get places.
Well, that leads me to a great point because, you're very lucky in your parents and how they helped you and like you said, your mom doing that. Let me ask you this, so what do you say to those parents today when you go to see a 12-year-old at a golf tournament and just getting blistered because they hit a ball out of bounds?
I heard a great quote. Dear friend of mine, Chris Kirk, he's playing in this pro-am. And, we get the same question all the time in pro-ams. Hey, I know my son or my brother, my nephew, this kid's the best player in the world. Like he's the next whatever. Like, what can I do to help him? Like, that's always the question. How can I help this kid? Um, and Kurt, his response is always so good. He said, when I was 13 years old, there's nothing you could have done to stop me from doing what I'm doing today. And I always think that was like that conviction and that want to, like, it's either it's kind of in you or it's not, and you can't fake that. You can't fake want to. You can't fake the things that we've sacrificed over time and the sacrifice. I mean, it's more. I mean, I guess if I was going to answer that question, it'd be like you just have to be willing to understand that it's a long road. It's really hard, and most people don't make it, and that's okay. Like it's okay. Like the struggle, every bit of struggle that you go through leads to something positive, in my opinion. And chasing a dream like that is only going to result in something good, even if you don't make it. Even if you don't reach your ultimate destination.
Yeah, one question I'd love to ask real quick is we talk about failure in your sport, and you said it. I mean, it's constant failure. I always say golf's my other favorite sport. My favorite two sports, baseball and golf, you fail all the time. I mean, I feel like
Nonstop.
that's all you do, nonstop. But seriously, as you got to high school and then you worked with it, how did you deal with that failure?
Well, I mean, there always needs to be somebody that can beat you. And if there's not somebody that can beat you, like you end up like kind of spinning your wheels. I got really good really quick. I was I got when I was a junior golfer, I was beating everybody, and it made me kind of soft. And so by the time I got to college, I fancied myself, one of the best players out there. And when I first got into college, I was, a world beater. And then all of a sudden, guys were beating me. And I didn't know how to handle that for a while. Like it took me a long time. And I got angry at the fact that I wasn't winning all the time. And I got like down and depressed. And I didn't transfer that into just like, well, I've got to figure out a way to beat these guys. I got to figure out something inside of me that I can harness and go to work. I spent too much time spinning my wheels trying to figure out, why they were so good as opposed to why I wasn't any better than I was.
So how did you figure that out, Brian? Because you said earlier that you run kind of hot and cold, and I've read where you had a temper, growing up on the
Yeah.
golf course. So
I haven't figured it out. I mean,
how do you channel it? Maybe I should say it that way.
It is a constant cycle of, like, oh, I'm doing great, bump in the road, back to the bottom. It's just, just pushing the rock up the hill, rocks rolling back down the hill. And I just think that I've gotten a little bit better of accepting kind of where I am, understanding that and what the next right thing to do is. And sometimes that's letting it burn to the ground and starting over with some new ideas. Sometimes that's just pushing that rock a little bit further, but I'm content to work in the right direction. And I think that's something that, it's something that's probably changed in the last couple of years.
Brian, there was an article written, and you were talking about, before you won the Open, about not feeling that this is when you were on the tour and you were, kind of in the middle of the pack in terms of the tour, but you didn't feel like you were worthy of signing autographs. I mean, here you are, one of the greatest players in the world, but you kind of were hard on yourself, and you didn't feel like you were that guy. And then something about winning the Open kind of gave you a perspective of finding more joy. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, Frenchie over there, he signed enough autographs. I mean, you sign autographs for kids, and they're like, "Oh, do you know where such and such is?" Or, "Oh, do you, what's your name?" And it's just like, man, what are we doing here? And that was an internal struggle for me, because I felt like I'd underachieved for so long that, I wasn't proud of what I had accomplished. And looking back, I should have been more proud in my perseverance than I was at how many trophies I had at the time. I should have been more proud that I hadn't quit, I hadn't gotten too down, and I probably should have taken a little bit more time to think about it that way.
Yeah, my humbling experience always was when you'd sign autographs and then the person would ask you, "Hey, can you have Chipper come out real quick and sign?" And you're like, "Yeah, thanks, I appreciate it."
Thanks, yeah.
So what was that experience like for our listeners with the Ryder Cup? I know you're not going to, you don't got to share meetings and stuff, but being in there with Zach Johnson and all those guys, you're over in Italy, like, was it something you just never dreamed of being able to do?
I mean, it exceeded I had high expectations for it, and it exceeded those expectations. And for me, it was on the course and just watching, the feelings that I felt, and then watching a guy like Max Homa, like, find, like, his self and just, like, perform. You're like, man, that is, like, what the human experience is all about. Like, watching a person just in, like, pure competition, pure, like, I don't want to call it in the zone because it's so cliche, but just watching someone that is just so there and so present and just, like, existing, and just, our whole lives we practice, train, everything to have moments like that, and to watch, even if, like, just a glimpse of, like, ultimate performance by, whoever. It's just really neat to see right up close.
Are you excited to maybe do that on American soil and have a fan base that is all behind you?
I got some thoughts. My wheels have been turning. I'm going to do everything I can to make every team possible, because it's just one of the coolest experiences that I've had in the game, for sure.
Curious, when you're over there though, like that, that's kind of the one time where it's almost like a SEC football game, right? I mean, with the crowd and everything. I mean, do you really have to find the ability to calm yourself down? Because I'm sure if you just get going full speed, man, it's probably not great for golf, right?
No, it's a very hostile environment. The pressure is just ramped up, and it's the only time, you miss a 5-footer at Augusta or at the Open, and I mean, there's one guy. I mean, it's like, I mean, like, I hate that I missed that putt, but it's just I'm the only one that's failing here, right?
Yeah.
But if you miss it, even in the singles match, like, you lose your match, the team hurts, and it's just like, man, you don't want to. It's a hard feeling, and if you're playing with somebody, an alternate shot, or wherever you hit a bad shot, like, and that's what I feel like Max and I did a nice job of. We talked that, like, look, man, you're going to get everything I got. You're getting everything I got, and I know I'm getting everything you got, so we're not apologizing. We're going to go out there. We're going to try to kick ass, and if we don't, that's just that.
Yeah, you and Max were great. You guys performed big time. Hey, let's go back. I want to go back to youth sports a little bit, because you're the first golfer we've had on our show. And we've got a lot of listeners who have kids, or they are kids who are trying to do it in junior golf. And I mean, you were number one in the world in junior golf. I'm just curious what your perspective is on junior golf today. And you said, these parents ask you at pro-ams. So you're talking to a whole bunch of them right now. what's a healthy approach that's going to get kids, obviously talent is talent, but what's a healthy approach for kids, you think, today in junior golf?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's work ethic, and a lot of it is just like a lot of it. I think it's just not having a backup plan, like climbing without the rope. Like if you're not 100% bought in as a kid, then and like I said, that's all that is okay. Like, but it's hard to give advice. Yeah, I've got a daughter and two sons now, and I think about that all the time about like how am I going to handle that when they get a little bigger and start wanting to play? Like I think about that all the time, and I keep trying to formulate the perfect curriculum for them, but I don't know that there is one. I don't know that because all a bunch of the guys that I grew up playing with, in junior golf. I mean, there were guys like, man, how am I ever going to beat that guy? And then he's nowhere. Didn't make the tour. Didn't so a lot of them didn't even play in college. So it's just hard to put pressure on a kid if he shows signs of talent to be like, oh, well, you're going to do this and this and this. Like you just never know. And you just got to keep digging it out of the dirt and waiting on a break. And it's supposed to be hard. It's got to be hard. You wouldn't know, I always say like you can't know victory without battle. Like it's supposed to be hard. Like there are going to be times like they're going to three putt. They're going to hit terrible shots, and just having the resiliency to just keep going, I think is the most important thing.
Yeah, I've got a friend who's an instructor at the Atlanta Athletic Club, and he works with a lot of college golfers and a lot of youth golfers. And he said, I asked him, I said, can you tell, if a kid has got not it in terms of talent, but it in terms of the I guess the internal fortitude or the desire to possibly play golf or the next level. And he said he really, when you watch them on the range, it's the ones that enjoy the stuff that isn't fun. He said everybody likes to go up and hit the ball a long way and likes to hit the driver, but it's hitting those shots that 100 of those shots that just aren't fun. But he kind of just feels it's just something that's inborn, that it's really hard to kind of coach that. It's just they're born with that makeup, and like you talk about with you, that love of the sport so much that they're willing to do the dirty work. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think I look at Nick Saban all the time, and you watch their practice, and everything is just so efficient, and they're doing just the most simple things all the time. It's like they're just making these building blocks to get bigger and bigger, and you have to be willing to do those fun things that aren't fun, checking your alignment, just little stuff like over and over and over again, that just these mundane tasks. You have to make a putt inside of 5 feet on pretty much every single hole that you play. Like, but I don't ever watch kids working on short putts. I don't ever watch kids working on, just chipping and putting and stuff like that. So all that, yeah, you have to enjoy. If you don't enjoy them, I mean, I don't enjoy practicing that kind of stuff, but you have to be willing to do it.
We talk about perseverance a lot. When we talk about kids and having grit, like you talked about, was there a time in golf, just curious, that you did get burnt out or you almost walked away?
Yeah, there are a couple times early on where I just hit like these walls and just wasn't really getting any better. And the other thing too is like, I mean, you grow so much in between. I mean, I didn't grow that much, but the other kids, they grow a ton. But until it get, I want to see a kid after he gets his driver's license and after he's done growing. So I mean, a kid's 12, he's going to grow whatever 8 inches or whatever. I mean, it's just hard to tell. Your body changes a ton, and then that driver's license, I know it changed my life. I mean, being able to drive to go do stuff, that's when that decision comes. Like, am I driving to the golf course or am I driving to the beach or wherever else? And those are tough decisions to make. And I would never in 100 years tell my kids, oh, you got to be driving to the, you got to be driving to the course. Like, my parents never told me to do that stuff. So I don't know, man. It's a hard, if if somebody had it figured out, they'd be awfully rich. But it's just, I'm sure y'all have kids. I mean, my three are totally different. So it's going to take
Yep.
three totally different, plans to get them to even be successful adults, much less, whatever they're going to be.
Yep.
That's what makes it fun. Hey, I love you just touched on something that I kind of love, and you're 5'7", 5'8", so you're not you're not a super tall guy. You don't have the longest length on the tour, but you didn't let that stop you. So how, for kids who aren't going to be the big tall guys, who bomb the ball 350, talk to them about how your approach was on all that.
Well, as much as I would love to be 6'2" and hit it a mile, if I was 6'1", I'd have been having bombs hit off me by Frenchie in single A somewhere. My life would have been drastically different. So I'm thankful that I'm not a big guy, because things would have turned out much different for me. As much as I love baseball, there's no way I would have quit. I'd have kept doing it. So, you're the size you are for the reason. Now, if I could have gone back, and if I'd had a crystal ball and I'd have known how important it was to hit the ball far, when I started just specializing in golf, I'd have continued training athleticism, because you can train to hit it far. Now, I'm 36. I can do a little bit here or there, but I'm just not going to pick up 30 yards. So I've got to be a great putter. I've got to have a great short game, and my iron game's got to be on par with everybody else's, if not better. So I've found the weaknesses in my game, and I'll work on those. But if I could have gone back and done it again, I'd have just kept training athleticism, being able to put force on the ground, and then I would have been able to hit it a little bit further. Now,
What was it like playing college golf? Was it a great experience? Did it feel? Were you able to enjoy at University of Georgia, or is it kind of like a business where you're just really focusing on your game most of the time?
Looking back, I didn't take advantage of my time there like I should have. We had access to trainers, to food, to could have been really pampered. And it's even gotten better since I was there. They're able to do so much more for those kids now. So it was a couple of different ways to treat it. You can go there and treat it like a business and go to work and know that it's going to pay off down the road. I chose to drink and party and almost ruin my golf game. So I didn't make the best choices in college. I would have done it differently if I'd have gone back. But I formed, I got some buddies from college, and, guys that I play with on the team, Russell Harris, Hudson, Kevin Kisner, all these guys that, I'll have relationships with those guys until we're old men. And that kind of stuff is really cool. Like you don't get to experience those things, and very rarely do you get to it almost feels like going to war with a guy. Like, we had some great experiences at these tournaments, trying to win tournaments, pulling on each other, trying to beat each other in qualifying. So I think all that was super important. And it teaches you how to travel. One of the hardest things we do is all the time we're by ourselves, just this immense solitude on the road, and just being able to know the ins and outs of kind of how to piece your time up when you're on the road. A lot of that I learned in college.
Finishing up here with Brian Harmon. Brian, I got to ask you, you're walking up 18 at the Open. You got the big lead, so you're going to win. What was going through your mind?
Yeah, I didn't allow myself to start thinking about it until I hit a bunker shot on 18 and got up onto the green.
Yeah.
And I looked over at my caddy and I was like, man, what did we just do? Holy smokes. And he was still – just so how serious and good he is, he was still in hey, man, we need to go make this putt. I'm like, nah, man, we cannot. We
can six putt and we're fine.
Whatever we want now. Now is when we party. We did it. So I did a nice job that week of never getting ahead of myself, and I didn't until I knew it was done.
Yep.
I'm kind of curious to back up from that a little bit. What did on Saturday night, you walk off the course, you have a substantial lead. What does your night look like, and what does your prep look like the next day from waking up to getting on the course?
Well, I've always been a good sleeper, and I've always been able to go to bed late and wake up late. I've never been a guy that's great at waking up the same time a lot of guys get into a great routine every day,
Me
up at
too,
6,
buddy.
breakfast at 6:08. I'm more a fly by the seat of my pants kind. So I stayed. Yeah, I can't do it. I'm not capable of it. I like to sleep till about 8 o'clock if I had my way. So I stayed up late Friday, stayed up late Saturday, probably stayed up till 11:30, 12, 12:15, and then I was able to sleep until almost 9 or 10 o'clock. And so I got to cut out a couple of hours in the morning where I'd have just been up twiddling my thumbs, drinking coffee. So I stay up. I was reading a little bit, not on the internet, just reading books, and I'd get tired that way. And then when I got up in the morning, I'd either read a little bit or just make coffee, and just I refused. I made a mistake. I had a chance to win the U.S. Open in 2017, and for some reason, I just cared about what everyone thought about it, and I wanted to look at Instagram and Twitter, and so I cut all that stuff out, didn't look at it, and I just stayed as focused as I could. And I was nervous, obviously, and I thought all the same horrible things that everybody would think, but I just didn't let my mind wander too much.
We talk about it in sports. Routine is huge, and gotta have kind of a routine. Take us through, a lot of the golfers listening. What is you get to the course? How do you prepare before you walk to the first tee? What does that hour and a half look like?
So I like to walk out of the door from the locker room about 50 minutes before I tee off. And that doesn't matter if it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 6 in the morning. But before that, I got to have me something to eat, and then I have about a 15-minute gym warm-up weight session that I do. And so I try to keep my routine flexible, and I just – those three things are basically my routine. And so if something gets – those are the three things I know that I can do every single day, and that there's nothing that can interrupt that. I feel like if I get too – focused in on a routine, like if one thing were to go wrong, then I would, be all over the place. So I wanted to have 2 or 3 things that I do all the time, and that I'm pretty flexible with it.
Brian, who's your favorite tour player to be paired up with on the course in a tournament?
Gosh, I've got a bunch. Kevin Kisner for talking hunting. We got, if I want to watch a guy play golf, it's probably Max Homa. He's funny as all get out too. He can really hit a golf ball. My goodness. There's really not a lot of guys that I don't like to play with. I feel like that. I watch them when they play, and I always feel like there's always a little something you can learn or something you can pick up. But those two guys are probably my favorites to actually play with.
Well, I want to see you in 2 years at the Ryder Cup paired up with Shane Lowry. I want you to close them out 9-8. That's what I want. I'm going to tell you. You don't have to answer that. I'm just telling you. That's what I want.
I like Shane. Shane's a good boy.
Oh, I'm sure he's a great. I'm sure he's a great guy.
Great.
But
he's great.
Oh God. Well, finishing up here, Brian. We appreciate you taking time with us. I want you to kind of look in the camera, and I want you to talk to parents for a minute, because you have 3 kids now. You talked about, what is your advice to them that you have a golfer, you have a tennis player, very individualized sports, about how to best give your kid the best opportunity to not put all the pressure in the world on them, but let them have fun and make the own dream?
I think there's more. I think there's more to life than sports. First, I think that becoming a fulfilled, gratified person is the most important thing that you can do in life. And I think part of that is having expectations that are, one, realistic, but at the same time, not ever trying to convince a kid that they can't do something. If someone's got an idea that they can do something, all the support, all the love, push them as hard as they want to be pushed. And, all this ends. It all ends. My golf career will end. That tennis career is going to end. It happens at a different time for different people. I'm lucky to where I'll be in my 40s or 50s when mine ends, but I've still got a long life to live after that. And if all I did was care about golf, then I wouldn't have much to live for afterwards. So, man, there's so much to life. It's such a beautiful world we live in. You gotta stop and look around sometimes.
Amen.
That's great stuff.
We can't thank you enough for joining us today, man. Open champion, good old Georgia boy. Brian, thank you for coming on, Pure Athlete.
Thanks
You
so
got
much,
it, boys.
Brian.
Thank you, Brian.
I'm a golfer, pure athlete.
Exactly. That's what we said.
That's right.
That's right.
Hey guys, Jeff Rancourt here. Thanks for checking out Pure Athlete, and subscribe to our channel on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you go to listen to our podcast.